It's just it's incredibly insufferable, and it is just such a waste of brain space. I can't even bring myself to really get much into it further than that, you know. And here's another thing I'm not really excited to talk about right now, and usually I find some way to be excited about it. But the Edmonton Oilers right now, it's been about 3 games. Yeah, about 3 games now since the end of the Olympic break, and they've only won one of them. I mean, one of them they managed to do, and they did manage to win in pretty spectacular fashion, so that was a lot of fun to see. But other than that, right now, this is not a fun team to watch. At the goaltending position and at the defense in particular. I mean, they allowed something like 15 shots in the first period against the San Jose Sharks. Our goaltenders are struggling to get to an 850 save percentage, and we need them to be at least a 900. If these guys can get to a 900, we can go on a run. If they're posting like 750, it's not gonna look very good. And that is unfortunately the way that it has been. So I'm not super duper excited to talk about it. I might not even talk about it again in this podcast beyond that. I might save it until after the trade deadline and see how things look then. No, it's pretty uncharacteristic, but I did just get into what we're probably going to be split up into two hockey segments. So instead, I think I want to talk about something that I am pretty excited for. And this is something that really snuck up on me, but the Formula One season kicks off on Saturday. So the Australian Grand Prix is going to go on Saturday. I haven't ever really been like a huge, huge Formula One fan. I don't even know if I would consider myself to be one now. But that F1, the movie last summer, was just such an incredible experience. As soon as that was available on digital, I had to jump on that. And at that point, it was like this unstoppable piece in my in my movie rotation, whatever you want to call it. Like during the spring breakup, at one point, or rather, I should say, no, this wasn't. I mean, for a few days, if there was nothing happening with work, like I was, there were a couple of days where I watched that movie more than once in a day. Like that was, yeah, it's a very, very addictive film, and it's definitely got me a lot more interested in Formula One than I ever was before. Another thing that's kind of attracted my interest this year is obviously that Cadillac Formula One team. It's such an intriguing move by General Motors. Because I can understand why General Motors wants to be in Formula One. To me, it's a little bit of it just seems absurd that they're only getting back into it now. Seems to me that General Motors and Ford, they really ought to have been in it all this time. I mean, Ford has been in Formula One before. And now I guess you could say that they are more fully into it now because they're now a full technical partner with Red Bull. So that's the team that I'm going to be keeping my eye on primarily this year. I mean, Max Verstappen is a very fun driver to watch. He's a very fun character. But anyway, I've kind of rambled away from what I want to talk about here. So the Cadillac Formula One team, kind of what a very interesting little thing that General Motors has given us. In particular from a branding perspective, because in all honesty, like speed and performance are definitely not what I associate the Cadillac brand with. I mean, not to say that Cadillacs have been like junkers under the hood by any means, but mostly what I associate with Cadillac, pardon me, has been luxury and comfort and style. And now they're going to take it in this other direction, and they've launched the brand in such a way that now it's going to be a high performance brand. Very, very, very interesting. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't do something like, say, like a Corvette Formula One brand. But I guess Corvette already kind of has that market cornered a little bit in terms of, the high performance. So say what you will about that, I suppose. But the one thing that does kind of jump out at me about this is that it does seem like there's, in a very large sense, I think the GM has kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I think that they obviously haven't done the background work that they needed to do with the FIA. Because to me, I think that this this product launch per se, this brand launch per se, has the potential to be an absolute slam dunk. If they were to go, if they were to do the things to get the FIA to cooperate with them in a sense that, to really make it one, I think that they had a huge opportunity here that they dropped. So I've seen the livery for the Cadillac cars, and basically it's like a black and white car. It looks kind of like a generic Formula One car. Nothing like what you would expect, like the Cadillac brand, to embody in Formula One. So, first off, like realistically, these cars ought to have been pink. These cars ought to be pink. I mean, not to say that a Cadillac can't be black. That's what Johnny Cash wanted in his famous song, One Piece at a Time. He wanted a Cadillac that was long and black. And there's always going to be something to be said about a black Cadillac. But I mean, just like to me, like pink is just, that is the archetypical color for a Cadillac. And I think that it would have stood out in this field. It would have stood out on the grid so much. It's almost like marketing malpractice for these cars to not be pink. And then alternatively, I mean, what would have been an extremely cool thing if they could have done it, and I'm sure there's no technical reason why they couldn't have done something like this, but basically go get in the IAA's ear and say to them, hey, let's take the Australian Grand Prix and just about each race on the schedule. Let's push it back by just 1 week. Now, let's take the Vegas Grand Prix and let's run that race first. And then when we roll out our cars for the Vegas Grand Prix, like we just roll it out, just like surrounded by just like tons of fanfare, and have like, have like a small army of like Elvis impersonators. I'm even like, if you want to be really radical, like a small army of like hot women dressed up like Elvis impersonators to escort this car out into the paddock, out into the pits, to get ready to go out onto, and just make like a huge spectacle surrounding it. To me, that is the way to go. And I feel that everybody associated with Formula One right now, as it relates to Cadillac, they should be wanting the same thing. And that is that they do want to see this thing become the biggest success that it can be. Because all of that stuff will filter down to all the other teams, to Formula One as a whole. Like a rising tide lifts all boats. It'll solidify the sport in the United States, which I know that is definitely something that the FIA has wanted to see this entire time. And in general, from a financial perspective, I think that it's actually good for everyone, which I think is really, for the first few years, what probably most of the field is looking to Cadillac to do. Like generally, when a new team joins Formula One, usually they don't do very well for at least the first couple of years. Although I do think that with some of the moves that Cadillac has already made, I mean, they're not running like a complete GM like power unit in this field just yet. So they're kind of already using like a proven commodity, in terms of like a lot of the technical stuff. On the personnel side, behind the wheel, I mean, Sergio Perez, he is a known commodity in Formula One. He is a driver that is capable of winning races. So you put those two things together, and I think that it's actually possible that maybe Cadillac might shock a few people out there. And I think that they might manage to actually place fairly well in a few races this year. Who knows? They might actually come away with a win somewhere. And then on the other hand, I mean, with all of the changes to the technical requirements that I understand have been made this year, I understand, for what I've understood from listening to a lot of other people talk about it, this Formula One season, with all of these changes in the technical requirements, have almost made it a blank slate. So realistically, it seems that nobody is really 100% certain exactly where anybody is going to show up this season. So for a bit of a dark horse team to show up amidst all of this uncertainty over all of the technical changes that have been made and manage to sail away with a win or maybe more. I mean, I don't think that Sergio Perez is going to finish the season as the F1 champion, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him win one race. Like maybe just one race, maybe two. I don't really consider it to be in the realm of impossibility. But in the long run, even with what I would consider to be like the dropped ball from a marketing perspective, I think that the arrival of Cadillac is going to prove to be an extremely exciting, development in Formula One this year. Now, just a quick reminder. So, a few months ago, I did release a video essay about the F1 the movie, about the character Jody. And that video did extremely well. They just 20,000 views, just blew away anything else that I've done on this channel. I do have another one that I just put out here last week, kind of like a deep dive into the character of Kate McKenna, who, as everybody knows, well, everybody who's seen the movie knows, and if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie. It's streaming on Apple TV, that's where you can see it. But she's like the Apex GP technical director in that film, and she's Brad Pitt's Sonny Hayes' love interest in the film. But I honestly kind of take a little bit more of I guess, I don't want to say red pill, but kind of somewhat red pilled view on her in the sense that I think in about the first 40 minutes of the movie, I think that she's the villain. And so this new video essay explains why. Please do go and check that out. And once again, the Australian Grand Prix on Saturday. And you can see that in Canada on TSN, and I guess everywhere else now you have to watch Formula One on Apple TV. That doesn't sound like a great arrangement, but apparently that's what it is.